What's behind this whole lot is that it's a government-owned, it's a state asset, and as such, everything has to go through the user, the end user, which is would be the Department of Education here. DHS school had the same problem, and they had to go to court to force DHS, to force the Public Works Department to actually give them the money to do the necessary repairs. In this case, the school body has been trying to get just maintenance done by Public Works, and their excuse is constantly, we are not being given the money by education, or it's not being allocated, which is absolute bullshit, because we know that in 2 of the last 5 years, Education Department has twice had this school on its budget for the year. Not a cent has been transferred for repairs and maintenance here, and the money has mysteriously been reallocated. Now, you know, if this was one of the top Model C schools, you'd say, well, you know, the old boys and the old girls should be paying for it, or can make a contribution. But this is a centre city school, which is hugely important at giving good quality education to kids from this area. Humble homes, people who are working class, tradesmen and so forth. And they are being treated as though they are Michael House patrons, therefore you don't need to give them. That's one of the major problems here. Secondly, there has been no maintenance, or very little maintenance, and absolutely no repair, serious repair, that could only be done through the Public Works Department. Whether you've got the experience, whether you've got the knowledge, this is pretty well close to a national monument, okay? And its structure, its maintenance requires expertise. I'm not going to say that I'm the only one with expertise, but I've got 40 years of experience, mainly in the rural mission stations, but on a number of other iconic projects have been, or none of the windows have been actually done up properly in the last 60 years. They need to be taken apart carefully and re-glued. There's no reason why 95% of the windows here, they can't use the original material. Most of the windows have still got a high percentage of their original glass in it, and I'll show you how you can tell that. Now, if you hand it out to PG Glass or any other company like that, they're just going to bash the glass out, put new glass in, not knowing that those windows are designed for 2mm glass, and you may not use 2mm glass anymore. You have to, by law, you have to use 3mm glass. So sash windows become so heavy, they don't actually work anymore. And that is because the law has been pushed by interested parties who don't have an understanding of heritage buildings. Up to now, I have just broken the law when I thought it was necessary, but they've actually banned 2mm glass in this country. So we're going to end up with places, with heritage places, where your windows are actually compromised because somebody thought that 2mm glass was not strong enough. 150 years of school. I'd say 2/3 of the windows are still original. That should prove to you that it's actually reasonably adequate, I'd say. Where all the buildings have to be maintained, okay? You can't just tell all the kids to go home for 3 years. So that's a major problem. In their wisdom, the implementing agents decided that, oh no, we'll get a number of prefab school classrooms in. The number was going to cost 12 million rand. So you present 12 million rand just to house somebody for 3 years, and then what do you do with them? And a little bit of lateral thought, if you go down Boshoff Street, there's a Boshoff Street infant school, complete school, also a heritage building, slowly crumbling away, with maybe half a dozen education officers sitting in disparate rooms. And we proposed, guys, do that up for the 12 million rand, okay? Then at least you've got your buildings sorted out and you haven't got wasted prefab classrooms. When that's done, you can move all of these people in there. Simple. It's not rocket scientists. Why doesn't it come from education department? Why doesn't it actually even enter the minds of public works? What the hell were implementing agents doing about this? You know? There is a solution. There's a solution for most things. You've just got to use your nozzle. Now that is an original wooden stair with certainly linoleum from the 1920s, possibly much older. And as you can see, you have to then decide, do we replace it with like, or do we change it to another similar product? They would be very unhappy if we were to break out these stairs and make them concrete stairs and tiles. Very often, 10 years at least, they haven't polished the floors, they just wash them. And so you see the dark areas at the side and the light areas here. But it's actually, this is not a public works responsibility, this is a home responsibility. What if they did a restoration, what we would insist is that they skimmed all these floors so to be uniformly clean of old polish. What you see there is just old dirt. You know. You raise your eyebrow for a moment, but it's true. I think this roof comes up against that building. There's a wall, that building has a straight wall going up. And there's what we call a valley gutter in there. The valley gutters have to be looked after and moist for so long. There's serious termite damage up in that roof, to the extent that we've had to say to the school, well, we said in 2019, expecting it to start to change quite quickly, this room must not be entered into by anyone. Because in theory, this whole thing would collapse. I'll show you later on a little skylight, but where that fan is upstairs, there's quite a structure hanging in dodgy timber, which was the main cause for our concern. But I mean, it's a lovely space. I mean, you've probably seen sash windows before, but there are sash windows with a slightly Gothic feel about the top of them. The quality of workmanship is just, it was standard then, it is just superb compared to what we come across nowadays. If the two of you turn round, you look at those windows there. You see those windows look bobbly. Now that's original glass. It's more than 150 years old. And it's all 2mm glass. Most of the glass in this room is in fact that old, okay. And to strip the paint off those window frames, most crass builders will use a hot air gun and you can take off the paint quite quickly. But with that heat, you'll break the paint as well. So it's a time-consuming job.